Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our show and welcome back to the DSA 53rd birthday celebration that has been going on since the very first day of this month. I'm Joshua Matare coming to you live from Kyiv, Ukraine. We've been having transformational testimonies since the very start of this month, all in the celebration of Pastor Sunday's birthday. And he's somebody who is about people, he loves people, and he's been wanting to showcase the people who have been able to learn and grow and transform themselves from his message. And we've had different guests, everyone dynamic, unique in their own way from the very first day. His birthday is on the 28th of this month, but all through we've been having different people coming to share with us their interesting and life transforming testimonies. And today we have a doctor all the way from the UK. He's Ghanaian by nationality or by birth, but he's been in the UK and he's going to be sharing with us an interesting topic of how his life has been changed beyond measure, having known Pastor Sunday. So please share this link with your friends, share this link privately on your wall, wherever you can, because what you're going to be hearing today is something that would help a whole lot of people to be able to make progress in their lives. It's going to give them answers. It's going to give them comfort. It's going to give them hope. It's going to make them realize that they are not stuck. It's going to make them realize that whatever they might be going through, they are not alone. There are people who have gone through certain things that you might be going through or that many people might be going through today, and they found a way out of it to live in a victorious, happy, fulfilled, and glorious life. And one of the people, and the person we're going to be talking to this evening is somebody who has gone through a process of transformation, and he has such a unique story and a unique testimony to share with us. He's a doctor, he's a psychiatrist, he's also an author of several books, and he's going to be telling us of how his life has been changed beyond measure. So ladies and gentlemen, please share this link, and then without further ado, I want us to welcome Dr. Benedict Quartsin all the way from the UK. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me on your show.
It's good having you back. We had you sometime, I think a couple of months ago. We had you on the show and it was such a nice time. So we're
Yes.
happy to have you back on this special occasion of celebrating Pastor Sunday or DSA's, 53rd birthday. So please tell us what you think about this celebration and how unique it is and different from what you've been used to. Or probably you've seen something like this before. So what do you think about this style of celebrating DSA's birthday?
Well, I think this approach to a birthday celebration is, I've come across it, but I don't think it's very frequent occurrence. Most people want to have a party, they want to dance, they want to eat and make merry, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think this approach is in keeping with DSA's philosophy. He lives for people, he lives to empower people, and even when he's celebrating his birthday, he sees it as an opportunity to bless more people, to give people an opportunity to share their experiences on this platform. So it's very much in keeping with DSA philosophy.
Fantastic. So he's like you, I'm glad that you know that. It's clear that you're an ardent follower because you know his philosophy, which is to always help to promote people and act as a ladder to help them to move up in the world. So it's fantastic that you're taking advantage of that and you've positioned yourself to fully utilize everything that DSA has prepared and has made available. So once again, for viewers who didn't see your last show, can you just tell us briefly what your life was like? Or let's still stay on DSA for a while. Tell us how you met DSA and how you got to find out about him.
Yeah, so I may have mentioned it on the last show, but I think I first heard about DSA around 2007. I was watching a TV show, an interview, I think, with Pastor Yemi Balogun on Revelation TV. And I think he caught my attention straight away. The things that he was saying sort of resonated with what was, I had in my heart. Not necessarily practicing it, but sort of what I had in my heart. So from that time onwards, I started following him. I looked for his teachings on the internet. I bought a couple of CDs of his, and but then I sort of lost contact. Somehow everything just fizzled away. I stopped listening, and it was back in 2017 that I started, listening to his messages again. Yeah, my wife sent me a link to one of his messages, and I was really thrilled that he was preaching in English, because before, back in 2007, he was preaching
In
in
Russian.
Russian.
Okay.
So, and a lot of the messages were being translated into English, which
Mm.
was good. But it was different listening to everything in English. So I really enjoyed that. And I should also say that I really like the fact that he was tackling topics that nobody was talking about.
Mm.
So, the typical preacher, and that's not to criticize any preacher, but the typical preacher um, talks about what. They answer the question, what we're supposed to be in Christ, what we're supposed to do in life, etc. But nobody talks about how.
Mm.
How you actually achieve those high standards that people preach about on a daily basis.
True.
And I found out that he was talking about the how. He was answering questions that I thought were unanswerable, and that's what got me really interested in his teachings.
Fantastic. I don't know if you're listening to this out there and you're wondering to yourself, how you can contact Dr. Sunday. You're on his platform. You can contact him as much as you can. Just write it into his inbox if you have questions. He's always willing to answer you. If you go on his YouTube page, Dr. Sunday Adelaja, you'll see his messages. If you go on Amazon, you'll see his books. So everything that you're hearing from Dr. Benedict is something that you have access to as well, and you can fully enjoy if you're willing. So he said he bought CDs and he bought books and he listened, and that was how his own journey began. Your own journey can start if you're yet to begin, and those of you who have started, we hope you're enjoying the same transformation that you're seeing as well. So you said that he was telling you of the how. So can you tell us what specifically was it that caught your attention on the how? Give us some examples of these questions that you heard that you didn't feel there were answers to.
Okay, so I think one of the series that really did it for me, it's on YouTube right now. So if somebody wants to look it up, it's called Life is Predictable.
All right.
And the title itself was a problem. I mean, once I saw that, I said, how can anybody say that life is predictable? I mean,
Mm.
surely we in Africa we say, who knows tomorrow? Everything is. How can you say that life is predictable? But as I listened to him and I saw him, lay down principles, I realized that actually it's true. Life is predictable, and what shocked me was that if you have a question about, say, you've wasted a lot of years, and that is something that I felt that I had wasted a lot of time. There's a lot that I could have achieved in that period of time that I've, the time that I've been alive, but it wasn't a problem. He had a book that said, how to regain your lost years.
True.
So if you have a question like that, and honestly, people in their 50s, people in their 60s that I come into contact with, that is a real problem for them, because some of them have just woken up to the idea that there's actually more to life than what they've experienced up to this point. But then the question is, where do I go from here? What do I do? How do I go about it? And many are living with regret. Many are living with depression. Many are confused about their lives because they know there's more, but they can't achieve it. And I saw that, if you had these questions, you just went either on Amazon or you went on YouTube and you found answers, because, DSA has material on all these sort of questions that people have. And that's, what I found, really enthralling, yes.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get the book, How to Regain Your Lost Years, the book that Dr. Benedict is talking about, just go on Amazon right now and type in How to Regain Your Lost Years by Dr. Sunday Adelaja, and you see that book. It doesn't matter if you're in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, and you feel like you've not really utilized your life as much as you want to, you're welcome to, read this book, and you'll be given a step-by-step process. Like he said, you'll be taught the how to be able to go from, wasting time and not being able to figure out what life is about to becoming somebody who will live a life of purpose. And on a daily basis, you will see that there will be transformation all throughout your life. So, Dr. Benedict, can you tell us, you said your life has changed beyond measure. So how exactly is that? What are some of the aspects of your life that have changed from the way that it was before to how it is right now?
Okay, so to answer that question, maybe I just sort of take you back to all our viewers back to something that's supposed to happen to every person when they first become a Christian. Now, God is so good that when you become a Christian, He doesn't just leave you there out there just by yourself. He brings you to an institution called the church. And when you come to the church, the purpose of you coming to the church is to learn. It's for someone to to show you the way and to show you, okay, now that you've discovered, like the prodigal son, you went astray. Now you've come back to God's fold. Here is the path. Here's what you've got to do. Don't waste time around. Don't laze around. Here is the curriculum. Follow it. Achieve your goals. That's how I understand the role of the church. The church is a little bit like, the family. A child is born, and the parents, nobody tells them that this is what they've got to do. They know what they're supposed to do to help that child to develop. So that's what's supposed to happen. But unfortunately, every Christian will testify that's not what happens. So you become a Christian, you gradually, it just becomes a routine where you just come to church and you just follow a routine. And you end up with lots of questions on your mind that have never been answered before. And I discovered that if you're not getting the same results, Jesus was with his disciples for just 3.5 years. And after 3.5 years, he thought it was enough time. He had done a good enough job to just leave them behind, hand the whole thing over to them, and say, get on by yourselves. That's how good a job he had done with them in 3.5 years. Now, the disciples, if you go and read the Acts of the Apostles, they didn't mess around either. So after a period of training, the likes of Paul, Silas, etc., they were also changing the world. In fact, I actually feel that people like Paul and Barnabas, because they understood how they were supposed to operate, they could learn from the mistakes of the 12 apostles in Jerusalem. They didn't mess about at all. They were very, very businesslike in their approach. You see? And if you read Acts chapter 20, Paul tells them, you guys, you're on your own. I'm leaving this thing to you guys. Go and sort it out. And they were weeping and things like that. But Paul said, no, there's a time for a parent to pass information onto the child, and then the child must stand on his feet and then move on. And that's supposed to be the format. But for that format to work, there must be a curriculum. There must be a clear plan, a program that the students, because basically Christians are supposed to be students. The church is supposed to be a school, and we're supposed to be students. So there's supposed to be a program that we are subjected to. And if you're subjected to that program, it shouldn't take you years and years. Unfortunately, we aren't. So for me, when I discovered the DSC's platforms and his material, that's when it hit me that I was supposed to have been in school, but I've been skiving all these years, or I've been in school, but I haven't had the material delivered to me. And so I saw it was time for me to sit down and really, really do a good job with this material and be meticulous about it. You see, one of my books that's going to come out will talk about some of these issues. We'll address them in detail. But basically, I discovered that the reasons why students can graduate out of university after 3 years and 20 years in church doesn't lead to any graduation is because there's no curriculum. There is no curriculum. There's no focus. If you walk into a church and the pastor greets you, you should say, I'm very glad that you've come. Here's what our church is about. Here's the program. Settle down and get on with it. You're not going to hear that. What you're probably going to hear is, you keep coming, we're happy to have you, and coming has become
family.
Exactly. And coming has become the goal. Just come. Just
and
attend.
Stay.
And stay, of course. But I discovered it's not supposed to be like that. And when I came to Ukraine, that's when I saw it in action. So I saw people who, you'd be talking to someone who says, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm running this shelter, this shelter for alcoholics and drug addicts. I'm doing this, and I said, how long have you been a Christian for? And they said 2 years. How did you get to that stage in 2 years? I've been a Christian 30 years. You've been a Christian 2 years. How did you get there? And so when I listened to all these stories, and then I spoke to DSA, and then he said, Ben, it's just the program that you're subjected to. These people, as soon as they come in, we tell them, there's no lazing about. This is what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be identifying your calling, but before you can fulfill your calling, you need training. So go through the training, then get on with it. Everybody that I spoke to in Ukraine had a goal, had a purpose. They knew exactly what they wanted to do. They may not have started doing it yet, but they knew what they had to do. Now,
was it in one way or the other?
Exactly, and but you can go to any church. I don't care what church it is, whether it's a so-called good church or a bad church. It doesn't matter. Just walk into any church, call the best members in the church, call them and ask them this question: what's your purpose? What's your calling? Are you pursuing it? But they won't be able to answer that question. It should not be like that.
True.
3 years under the tutelage of Jesus, a few years under the tutelage of the apostles, led to a clear vision. And not just a vision, but also training, preparedness to do the job. One day, Acts chapter 13, the Holy Spirit came, told them, he said, no, set aside Paul and Barnabas for the job that I have set, because they had been trained. He could come in and say, yes, let's send this one out. But is it possible for the Holy Spirit to just step in and do that today? It's not possible, because we are not
extremely difficult, even among the pastors in the church.
Yes. So for me, that's really been a striking thing, that I'm supposed to settle down like a student and be businesslike in the way I approach everything, I remember in the days when we were in uni, if you missed a lecture, you met up with a friend so you could find out what was taught. Because you knew if you didn't, you would pay a price later. You see, accountability, that's what helps students to remain focused. But when you are, you're just, attendance is the issue. Just come. It doesn't matter. Nobody's telling you that there's a goal that you're supposed to be working towards. Nobody's telling you that there's a purpose out there. And just come. Just come. When coming has become the goal, of course, nothing is going to happen. If you set up a university and it's just about attendance, just come. Of course, nobody's going to learn anything.
You won't produce anybody of substance.
Of course not. I remember that, in uni, in secondary school, I'm sure you had the same experience. There were subjects that you had to take exams in, and then there were subjects that you didn't have to take exams in. Guess which one you studied?
And the ones you had to take exams in.
Of course. If your church attendance is of no consequence, if I miss pastor's sermon today, and it's really no big deal, I can come back next week and I wouldn't have missed anything, because the people who were there, they didn't learn anything anyway. If that is the case, how can I grow? But if I miss church and then I say, oh my God, why did I miss church? There was so much that was shared. I go on YouTube looking for the material because something substantial was shared there. Yes, being subjected to that kind of teaching, you're going to grow. You're going to grow. So, as I said last time when we met here, DSC has stirred up something inside me, and he has stirred up a hunger, a desire, and my nature is such that if I pursue something, I pursue it fanatically. So that's
good. That's the way things are supposed to be. Extremists are the ones who actually get things to change in the world. Most people who are just, neutral, the Bible even says lukewarm people, unstable people, they're not going to be able to accomplish much. So it's good that you're an extremist. It's good that you're a radical in that respect, because that's the only way you get results. DSA will say it's 100%. The water will have to boil to 100 degrees for an egg to be able to be well cooked. 99 will not do, 90 will not do, 80 will not do. So it's fantastic that you're going all in. And I think that's a principle that every listener should, abide by. Go all in. Once you see something that is true, once you see something that works, don't go halfway in, halfway out. Don't try to say, oh, maybe I'll do it some other time. Immediately take action. Don't procrastinate, and don't be haphazard in your approach. Pour your heart and your soul and everything you have into it, and then that's only when you have results. Am I correct?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the principle. Jesus followed that principle. He lived all out. Until I started listening to DSA's teachings, I didn't realize what a rich resource the Bible is.
Wow. So you thought it was just a book?
No, I knew the Bible, I read the Bible, but it was more in religious terms. I couldn't see a lot of practical applications. You see, there were a lot of issues that if you needed to, you're looking for answers, it seemed as if you needed to look elsewhere. But once I started listening to the teachings, I went back to the Bible, especially the Gospels, and I realized, oh my goodness, there is so much here. If you want to learn about what kind of work ethic you should have, if you want to know about, because DSA's work ethic, DSA would collapse anybody.
True.
There are very few people on earth who will be able to keep up with his tempo. They don't know how intense he is. But I didn't know that Jesus was intense until I had, come into contact with DSA and learned his principles. Go and read Matthew chapter 13. Go and read some. Jesus back to back, working non-stop, preaching, healing, then getting in a boat to the other side of Lake Gennesaret, then being casting out demons out of somebody, being kicked out of there, then returning and continuing. Jesus's work ethic was just incredible. But here we are praying to that same Jesus, but we don't want to work. We just want to relax and just receive blessings. But the person that's supposed to give you the blessings, when he was on earth, he showed you the way. That the way to achieve greatness, the way to be able to achieve anything on earth, is to be hardworking. So it's like the Bible has become a religious book that we just read, and it's of no consequence, really. But if we start to treat it like our textbook for life, the book that we're supposed to know, so that we and extract wisdom from to guide our lives, a lot will change. A lot will change. The point you made about intensity, pursuing everything with your heart. We talked about with Jesus, but you can talk about Paul the Apostle. He said, this one thing I do. Leaving behind those things that have come, but he didn't do victory laps. He didn't go celebrating his successes. He didn't have time for that. The next thing was what he was always pursuing, and that is the attitude that we're supposed to have. If we have that attitude, just as the Bible says, we will be head and not the tail. We will be at the forefront of advancement in every area of life. We will be the top. But what's happened is we are living this dichotomous life where we go to church and we hear about God's blessings, we hear about the power of God, and we go to our everyday lives and we see a different reality, but nobody tells us that there's something to bridge the two different worlds. And that thing is hard work. And that thing is principles. Nobody's telling us that. That's why, I'm so blessed to have met, DSA, to have come into contact with these teachings. And by the way, happy birthday, DSA. I know it's only in a few days' time, but, I'm wishing you in advance.
Sure. At the end of the show, we're going to give you a few minutes to tell him all it is that you want to tell him and wish him, as many birthday wishes and blessings as you want. So you're ahead already. So tell us some reactions that you've gotten. For example, you were part of a church, right, before you found DSA.
Yes.
What has been their reaction to these new revelations that you have? Because what you're saying makes perfect sense. What you're saying is logical. What you're saying is practical. So what is it that people have reacted to, and what has their reaction been like?
If I'm honest with you, I haven't shared a lot inside my church itself.
Paul said, how would they know if you don't tell them? So what exactly is going on?
They will know. For you make no mistakes about that. They will know. They will find out.
Okay.
I haven't yet, because I think the past 2 years, what I've seen is a lot of changes within me, and I wanted to make sure that those changes were bedded in. I didn't want to go, singing out to people about what they needed to change in their lives until I had tasted it and seen fruit first in my own life. And I was sure that was something that I really wanted to pursue, for the long term. I've come across a lot of people who, have had, even been to Ukraine and have been excited about it, and within a very short time, they were no longer talking about it. Some are even offended. They don't even want to have anything to do with DSA anymore. Which is a really sad story as far as I'm concerned, to have tasted something like that and then to have become offended and walked away. I don't know, because at the end of the day, it's better not to have known the truth than to know the truth and not walk in it.
True.
So as far as I'm concerned, so that's one of the reasons why I haven't been loud about it, but not because I am hiding, not because I am not sure that the time is coming.
All right, good. Even if you're not telling them in your church yet, but you've been able to come up with some products. You have a book that we discussed about last month that you launched, which has not been officially launched, but is out there for people to get, titled Arise. Am I correct?
Yes, Arise has been launched already. Arise is already available for purchase. Yes, on Amazon or any bookshop really. Arise is available. Arise is doing well. I have had some very, very positive feedback from around the world. I had a contact from a book agent in the States who had found the book. Was really, really excited about it, wanted to promote it to some of the big publishers around. So, so Arise is doing well, but I've got some other material coming up, which will probably be even more fiery than Arise.
Fantastic. We're supposed to grow from glory to glory, and whatever we're doing is supposed to get better. So I can be sure that with your intensity and with your focus, there's no way that the other books that you come up with will not be as great, if not greater than what you've already done. So, all right, so since you've been able to come up with these books and these materials, that's what you have right now, and you see yourself, being able to use these materials to tutor other people in the future. Am I correct?
Exactly. That's the purpose. My passion in life has always been to share what I know. I started doing that as a student. I was always, as soon as I had studied the subject, I was teaching it to other people. So I've always done that, and that's been if you go to my Facebook page right now, you'll see that that's what I've started doing already. So I've started the principles that I have understood, that I've tested and I've seen to be effective. I've started sharing them, and I've started writing articles. I've got a website that is just now ready, so I'm going to start loading material there, and I have other plans for, there are great things coming.
Fantastic. What's the name of your website in case people want to visit it?
Yes. So the website is called arisebook.com. So it's to do with the Arise book. So arisebook.com.
So it's dedicated to the Arise book.
Yes. Actually, no, sorry, it's the .net, not Arise.
Arisebook.net. All right. Yes. So those of you who want to get the book, or those of you who want to know what the book is about, probably want to see previews and things like that. If you don't want to go on Amazon, you can go to arisebooks.net and arisebook.net, and you'll be able to see the book, review it, and I believe purchase it, because it's a great one. And when you read it, you should also buy other copies for other people as well, because one of the greatest gifts you can ever give to people is the power of information and knowledge, because they say knowledge is power. It will empower people to break out of whatever confines they find themselves in and whatever problems they are in at the moment. It will give them answers to be able to get themselves out of it. All Dr. Sunday had to give Dr. Benedict was information. He didn't lay his hands on him specially, or he didn't prophesy to him specially. All he gave him was information, and today he's a completely transformed person, and he's saying the changes he has seen in his life are beyond measure. Am I correct, doctor, when I say that you didn't have any special prayers from DSA for all these things to come, and there was no special impactation, program? And like we do in Ghana, or probably in Nigeria as well, where you say there's going to be a special event where the man of God will personally impact you with the Spirit, and you have to come and either kneel down, lie down, sow seed, and there will be a lot of sweating and gyration and music and all of that. Did any of that happen between you and DSA?
What do you think the answer will be?
I'm sure the audience is desperate to know, because when you talk about some of these things, people believe that it's something that had to do with a physical touch, because that's all they know. They are used to, for you to have a change, or for a pastor to influence your life, there has to be some direct hand on hand, or physical. We're used to the physical, something touching. We're used to feelings and all these atmospheres, and creating an environment that is full of euphoria and smoke and lights and all those stuff. That's what our religion has become. So it's hard, in fact, for some people to believe that some of the people who have been giving testimonies have not even met DSA face to face. It's hard for them to even understand that. But you were happy, you were lucky to be able to come for the HMT. So tell us what exactly it is that you experienced, and give me an answer to the question of how this impartation, in quotes, came about.
Yes, okay. For people looking for impartation, what I'll say is, you remember the story of the woman who touched Jesus's the hem of his garment and was healed, and that story also merges in with the centurion who had sent servants to go get Jesus to come to his house, but later on he changed his mind. He said, what, just send the word. Just say the word and my servant will be healed. That man had enough sense to know that just the word was enough. And Jesus was shocked that somebody who's not even a Jew had such insight. And he said, I've not seen such great faith. No, not in Israel. And I would link that to what happened with me. DSA did not lay hands on anybody. In fact, that's one of the things that DSA wants to move people away from. This idea that your change, that your blessing, your transformation is tied to somebody or to some particular impartation, some touching or whatever. That's something he doesn't practice. And that's something I don't believe in, because I've been prayed for hundreds of times. If something was going to happen, it would have happened back then.
Long ago. Within the 10 years that you found out about DSA in 2007, it took you to 2017 and frustration to be able to relocate him and all that. So all the prayers and the religiosity and the impactations and the night vigils and all of the speaking in tongues and what have you that you've been going through, none of it seems to work.
No, they don't change you. It's the word that changes. And it's when you take the word into your heart, you believe it, you start practicing it. That's how you're transformed. That's the only formula in the Bible. That's the only formula in the Bible. And do you know that even people that don't believe in God, atheists, understand this formula? I've come since discovering this, I've come across many personal development trainers, many life coaches. They're teaching the same principles. They understand that if you take the truth and you practice it, you will eventually reap some results. And that's how they're approaching it. But we bypass it. Jesus told a parable. The parable we call the parable of the sower. And when he had finished that parable, his disciples came to him and said, "Can you explain it to us?" And Jesus said, "If you don't understand this most basic of parables, how will you then understand the mysteries of the kingdom?" Why? Because this is the most basic one. And Jesus said, the word is the seed that the sower went out to sow. But that seed fell into ground. And and when it fell by the wayside, the birds took it away. When it fell on the rocks, well, it tried to grow, but it was scorched in the heat of the sun. When it fell among thorns, it couldn't bear fruit because it was choked. But when it fell on good soil, it bore fruit, 30, 60, 100. And Jesus gave us a principle. If you want to see transformation, you need to take that seed into your life and work with it. Work with it. Get rid of the thorns. What are the thorns? These are opposing ideas, opposing doctrines, opposing. You see, there are a lot of people who come to GSA's platform to have a fight.
To argue.
Yes.
To love insult.
Yes.
To defend their man of God.
Yes. They come in, and there are some that don't come to have a fight. They come to listen, but they can't bear fruit. Do you know why? Because they are also holding on to other teachings from other sources that don't make any sense, but that they are sentimentally attached to. Those teachings haven't yielded any fruit in their life for 30 years, but they're not going to let go because they have a sentimental attachment to the person that gave them. You see, the only way you're going to bear fruit is when you realize that what you are holding on to doesn't work.
It's unproductive.
Exactly.
So it's trying to let it go.
You put that aside, then you take what works and you run with it with all your heart. You can't give something your full attention. You can't give something all your energy if you don't believe in it completely. And that's the problem that you're having in Africa. You talked about impartation. There are people that will listen to GSA teachings and they think, oh, it makes a lot of sense. But on Sunday, they're still going for their impartation because as far as they're concerned, that's where it, that's the source, really.
They're emotionally tied to it.
Yes.
So you've answered what was going to be my next question, because you spoke about the word and you spoke about how you had to have it on the inside of you. And I was about to say, but a lot of people have been going to church listening to the word in quotes for years. You were doing the same thing, and I wanted to ask you what the difference was going to be, but you've already gone into that to make them realize that, look, there's a lot that they've been holding on to, and you should judge by the results you have.
Yes.
You have been able to, okay, let me ask you this. How many books did you write before you met DSA?
0. I had, I had always wanted to write a book, and I tried to write a couple of books, but I never came any close to publishing them, and I still haven't published them. But once I started listening to DSA, and I had a complete change of attitude to life, approach to life, it became very easy. I got the first manuscript ready in 4 months. In 4 months, whilst going to work, whilst doing my normal job.
Why having a family? Why having a job?
Yes, and a family.
Okay, let's try to break this down so that people can understand how vivid this was. You've always had it inside of you to write a book, and you graduated how many years ago before 2017 when you met DSA? 20 years?
Graduated from
the university. I believe that was when you had the vision, right?
1997 I graduated, yes.
All right. So 1997 to 2007, exactly 20 years. So for 20 years, you knew on the inside of you instinctively that you were a writer and you knew you wanted to write, but you couldn't come up with any products. But since 2017 and now we're in 2020, you've been able to write 4 books, and in fact, you've published one just in 4 months. So ladies and gentlemen, check that out for yourself. Look at the transformation, what he couldn't accomplish in 20 years. So when he's talking about regaining your lost years, it's not just theory. This is something that he's practicing. This is something that has worked. So the best way to know what actually is the best for you is to look at the results that you're having. Nobody can dissuade you now and say, oh, what you've been hearing does not work, because you can see as clear as day that you're completely a totally different person from who you were. Am I correct?
Yes. And one thing I would say also is, of course, as a doctor, as a psychiatrist, I have an area of expertise that I can talk about and people will listen because I've had a training for it. But since 2017, I have developed a new area of expertise that I didn't have. Okay, that I didn't have. When I left Q, I just knew that I wanted to do something along the lines of personal development coaching, life coaching, those sort of things. But of course, I didn't have any material. I didn't have any clue. I didn't know how I could do that. But now I can see the transformation that's happening in me, that it's going to be easy to do that. Because I've sat down, I have done the hard work. I'm not stopping, by the way, I'm continuing. And so I know that those results will come. There's nothing that you want to do that you can't achieve if you've got the right material, you've got the right direction, and you put in the effort. You will achieve it. And that thing you said about how to regain your lost years. I remember when I came to Kyiv and I saw the book, and I just and I looked at the title and I said, wow, how to regain your lost years. How do you get this back? But now I know how to now I know how you get it back. How you get it back is, in the time that is left, you use it more wisely. You apply yourself. You live wisely. You live mindfully. You don't just go through life. You plan your life. You plan your time. And that's how you get more out of every minute of your life than you were getting before. That's the difference. You see, for example, and I shared some of that last time, I discovered that I have my down times and I have my up times. So there are times when I function very, very well. My mind is sharp, my concentration is up there. And there are times when I don't have that. So I decided to schedule all my high intensity activities in that period. And it's incredible. Within 2 hours, you can do what you couldn't do in 3 days. I am not lying. I am not joking. This is the truth. If I sit down during that period, and for me, it's first thing in the morning, and I zone in to whatever I'm trying to do, it's like if there's fire burning around, I might not even hear it, because that's how focused I become. You see, and we have these capabilities within us. God has given us the ability to be able to focus and get better results. But we haven't taken the time to study our strengths and our weaknesses. We haven't taken the time to see when our down times are, so as to avoid those times and to work when we are functioning, at our best.
That's an amazing concept right there. I don't believe that there are many people who have taken time to study themselves and to know when they are best productive within their day. Many people just breeze through the day. If they're tired, they just push through. If they are energetic, they believe, maybe it's the food I ate or something. They don't understand that it has something to do with the way their system functions. So before you discovered this intense time and you did this introspection, so you mean all through the years, you didn't really pay attention to the fact that you were more active at some times and you needed to use it more judiciously?
I think whilst I was in university, I picked up on it that studying at certain times of the day was better than other times. But you see, I was having a discussion with a friend the other day, and they said, school makes us lazy in life. Because we learn certain ideas, some principles in school, they work for us, but we only apply them for our exams. And then once we pass, we just abandon those principles and get on with life. And then we wonder why we're not getting good results in life.
True.
You go to school. I studied in Poland, studied medicine in Poland. I had to study, first of all, the Polish language for 9 months. And then afterwards, as I'm sure you're familiar with this system, and then went on to study medicine. The first year, sometimes the teacher would be talking, you didn't know what they were talking about. And the worst part of it all, you were given a textbook in anatomy this thick, and in a foreign language. And,
wow.
You were supposed to read. Sometimes you had a lesson, a lecture, or the next day, and that night you're supposed to read 30 pages in the foreign language, understand it, remember it, because you were going to be asked in class and marked. Exactly. And it was like that every lesson. So you had to find ways and means to make things work, because you couldn't afford to fail. And guess what? We did it. We all did it. You've been there. Others have been there. We did it. But then we put ourselves through all of that. And the day we get our degree, it's like,
You're
Finish.
out.
I'm a free man. I'm just going to enjoy life. But you don't realize that it's like you've been driving in the fast lane on the motorway, and then suddenly you just want to just branch into a side road and you just mess your life up for nothing.
Some people just pull over completely. But you know, it's true. What you're saying is completely true. The school system is a microcosm of what our lives are supposed to look like. But because nobody tells us that pressure, the timing, the structure, the system is supposed to be what we do for the rest of our lives. So we just see it as punishment, or we see it as just a temporary price that has to be paid to accomplish a certain goal of graduating. And once we're done, we believe that we're free. But freedom is not really free, because it leads you into a place of chaos, into a place of, lack of achievement or fulfillment. And you realize that those people who end up rising to the top of their professions in life, they continue those studies. They build systems around themselves. And it's like they've left the school environment, but they've not left the mentality of studying and constant and daily improvement. Am I correct?
As a matter of fact, if you study the lives of millionaires, and by the way, I didn't used to care about the lives of millionaires until I met DSA and I started studying them. Because I started studying anybody that has been successful at anything. Whether you're a sportsman, whether you're a doctor, whether you're whatever. If you're successful, you have a secret that I need to learn. So I started studying the lives of different people, and I discovered one thing about millionaires. Many of them were either dropouts, or they were like your C-grade students. They were not A-star students. But here is something that they learned that the rest of us have forgotten. We would go to school, put ourselves through all that suffering, and then once we get a degree, it's like, hey, I've got a degree. Better give me a job. I've done my... What's the problem here? Whereas they see life, the whole of their lives, as school.
True.
So the principles that we subjected ourselves to for a short period of time, 3-4 years or whatever, they apply those same principles throughout their lives.
They turn into a lifestyle.
Exactly. Most millionaires value their time.
True.
Now, I remember that in secondary school, nearer the exams, we valued our time. In university, nearer the exams, you valued your time. If a friend came and was just chatting, you just say, you know what?
I need to read.
Exactly. But the only reason why you did that was because of the exam. Then you pass the exam, you leave school, and you forget this principle. How that principle helped you to manage your time so well, to get more out of your time. You just abandon it. And then you come in life and then you wonder why things aren't working. The truth is, if you take the same intensity from secondary school, from university, and apply it to life, many people could be millionaires by the time they were 30.
True.
Many people would...
They will be inventors. They will be doing great things. They will just be rising to the top. Africa will be a developed continent.
Oh, yes. But most people think that they've done their bit. It's now time to reap some rewards. And it's like, no, you haven't started yet. You haven't started yet. No. You're now, you learned some subjects that were imposed upon you. Now it's time to study life.
True.
Now it's time to study life, understand and apply the same intensity that you applied in uni to life. And let's see if you don't get results. Let's see if you won't be the top. Let's see, we talked about millionaires, but let's talk about inventors. Thomas Edison. People used to spend hours in the laboratory and forget that they hadn't eaten, forget that they hadn't slept.
For days.
For days. And you'd be surprised why they ended up with thousands of patents. It didn't come by miracle, by effort, by principles. So we need to go back. We need to go back to some of these principles, especially in Africa. Now I'm so pleased, I'm so glad that I'm an African. I'm so happy that I'm African, and I'm so happy that I can share this with Africans. You see, look at where China is today. I've seen documentaries about China where 30 years ago, you know what I'm saying, the cars were like rickshaws, you understand me? And now they are producing top quality products in every sector. True. How do they do it? One of the things they did, they invested in education, they invested in their people, they invested in a mindset, and they are reaping results. If Africa, if we
And
stop,
they are intense,
yeah,
even in wrongdoing.
oh yeah, yes, even in wrongdoing, they are intense. You know what? Those guys, they're going to be very difficult to catch, to catch up with, because
True.
they're not going to rest on their laurels. They're not going to, they're not just going to sit back and do a victory lap. No, they are not going to be like that. They're going to keep pushing. So they're not going to only go past the US, they're going to be difficult to catch. That's the intensity. That's what intensity gets you. And if Africa, if we just forget about, yes, the past hasn't been great, but if we were to take these principles and start applying them to our lives, I'm telling you, we can do the same. We can do the same. It's easier now than it was many years ago because of technology. Today, knowledge is available. The person sitting in the remotest village in Africa has access to the same information as the person sitting in Silicon Valley.
True.
We don't have excuses anymore. Now is the time to take hold of what's available, make it work.
Very well said. Ladies and gentlemen, you're hearing it from Dr. Benedict all the way from the UK. Please share this link with your friends. These are life transforming principles that will work for you, no matter your sex, gender, race, where you're from, nationality. It does not matter. These things work. You're going to be able to make an impact if you follow these life principles, if you imbibe these values, if you read these books, if you take in this knowledge. There is no way you'll remain the same. So please share this with your friends and make sure that they come in and they join us. Now, he has spoken about some books, both his and that of DSA. If you want to get the book on how to regain your lost years, go to amazon.com and you'll find the book there. You can go to dsabooksplanet.com. That is for Africans. Those of you in West Africa, you can go to that website and you'll be able to order for the book. Those of you who are in Nigeria as well, you can go to bambooks.io. When you register, you will see all of DSA's books. It's a new platform that publishes books. You'll be able to see DSA's books there. You can get them and begin to inform yourself and begin to change your mentality and begin to change the way you think and the way you see life. And there is no way you remain the same. Today, we keep going back to the same principle of intensity. A lot of us are so relaxed about life. A lot of us cannot wait to rest. A lot of us love to just, take a laissez-faire approach to life, and we believe that life is to be enjoyed, in quote. But life is not supposed to be enjoyed. Life is supposed to be lived for productivity. Life is supposed to be lived to make an impact. Life is supposed to be lived to bear fruit and create products that will make the world a much better place than you met it, that will make the lives of people to be a lot better than it was before, that will bring solutions to the cries, to the problems, and to the heartaches that humanity is facing. So we're not supposed to, the only true enjoyment in life comes from productivity, comes from answers, comes from you being, able to bring forth out of yourself that which God has put in you for humanity. So it's time for us to get intense. I wanted to share this with your friends. You start the intensity by sharing this as much as you can, so that people can begin to know that there is a better way to live life than the way they're living it right now. Because very few people are living for purpose. And that is why Africa is suffering. That's why most all the African countries are third world countries. If we've been living with these principles, there's no way we'll be where we are today. But I believe that we're going to rise. Just like Doctor has told us, these principles work and they will be able to get us to where we need to be. And the world will admire us just the way they're admiring China right now, in spite of all of the challenges they're facing. So, Doctor, I have a question for you. When we were talking about, the whole millionaires thing, you say you never thought about becoming a millionaire, but you're a professional. You're somebody who schooled in Europe, you work in Europe, and of course, I'm sure you wanted to make it in life. So how come you never thought about becoming a millionaire?
Well, what I said was I started studying the lives of millionaires because I wanted to learn the principles that made them successful.
So it's not like you didn't want to be one. It's just that you didn't study to be one. You just thought God would bless you with it one day, or you would. How exactly did you think you were going to get it?
No, okay, maybe we're not understanding each other. What I was trying to say is that I undertook to study the lives of millionaires because I discovered that they had learned a secret about life that I didn't know. Okay. Now that secret might lead me to be a millionaire. Well, I definitely want to be a millionaire. Who doesn't want to be a millionaire?
Okay, fantastic.
Yes, I definitely want. But I have learned that it's not about what I say I want to do, or it's about what I manage to achieve. So for me, it's about learning the principles, and if I follow the principles, the money will come. If I
True.
follow the principles, diligently. Yeah.
Aha, okay. So that was what changed your entire mentality. And one of the things that you saw was how they built a system around their lives and how it has made them successful. So, what are some of the principles that, apart from that of intensity and the fact that they have, they built a school like system around them, what are some other principles that you've learned from DSA or from your own studies that you think people or Christians need to apply to their lives on a daily basis to get to the top of their professions?
Okay. The first thing I'll say is that you have to treat your life as a resource. Okay. Your life is a gift. People talk about life being a gift, etc., etc. But what are you doing with that gift? Yes, it's a gift, but you can get a gift from a friend and then put it aside somewhere and never actually use it. And this thing that's been given to us as a gift, have we actually unpacked it, looked in it, and seen what it actually entails? I believe that those of us are Christians. One day we get to heaven. The Bible says that God will wipe away our tears. But I don't believe that there are tears. For some people, it won't be tears of persecution. It will be the tears of, my God, I've wasted my life. That's the tears
True.
shedding. Some of us will just realize just how wastefully we've lived our lives. How much we've not taken into account what's been given to us.
True.
There are people that I meet all the time who talk about how disadvantaged they are in life, how it is that they are not rich, they don't have rich parents, etc., etc. Look, DSA says nobody came into this world empty-handed. Everybody came with something. There's a man, I think Vujicic is called, this pastor.
Yeah, Nick Vujicic.
Exactly, Vujicic, who doesn't have arms or legs. It hasn't stopped him being successful. It hasn't stopped him being, being very, very successful in life, because he looked at what he had, not what he doesn't have. If all of us would just focus on what we actually have, rather than what our neighbor has, rather than what someone else has that I don't have, and start to work with what you have. You see, in the parable of the talent, each person got something. One got 5, one got 2, one got 1. And the one that got 1 just thought, it's really not big deal, really, and just buried it. But the master wanted him to trade with it. So whatever you've received, trade with it, develop yourself. A few years ago, I came into contact with a guy who, after he turned 40, he just realized, oh boy, I've gone past my halfway mark now. I've got to do something, got to get my act together. And he said he had an interest in writing. So he started writing, he started taking courses, he started learning, and now he's writing quite well. So you can look at yourself, do an inventory, and that's something that I've been sharing on my Facebook page. I've been writing articles, so anybody that's interested, you can go to my page. You'll see I'm started writing articles on these subjects. How to take an inventory, how to look at what is it that I have, what is it that God has blessed me with. Look at the fact that you're healthy, the fact that you have a body that is fit and able, you are fit and able. That is a resource. The fact that you can talk, that's a resource. The fact that you can write, that's a resource. Look at everything that you have and then ask yourself, how can I improve it? How can I improve it? And then, what can I do with it? When you start to follow these simple steps, you'll discover, I found out for myself that I could write. But actually, at the age of around 18, I had written a play script for a TV show in Ghana.
Wow.
And I had gone and met with one of the actors, and he got excited about it and introduced me to the director. But they told me that there were some modifications that I had to do to my script, and I didn't like that. So I didn't do anything with it.
Wow. And you were only 18 at the time.
Yes. And so I left it. And it just recently that this whole thing just woke up in me, and I just thought, oh boy, I've got to nurture this thing. I've got to improve upon it. I've got to keep improving, because if you keep improving, you will be successful. You will be successful. So the principle is improve, keep improving. Warren Buffett talks about it. He reads a book every few days. He reads a new book. Um, Even people that they insult, like Donald Trump, has got principles that you would do well to learn. And I'm not talking about you, but people would do well to learn from. He
Oh
doesn't.
yeah, he's a force of nature. Many people look at him and they think that they see somebody who doesn't know what he's doing. But you don't get to where that man is without knowing one or two things about life.
Exactly. And that's something that we need to learn, as Christians. I think sometimes we get so religious, we become very selective about the people we want to learn from. We're looking for somebody that is perfect, has never sinned before, has never said anything, has never put a foot wrong before. You're looking for Jesus. He's the only person. He's the only person that was perfect. The rest of
True.
us, we've all got our stories. We've
True.
all got our issues. But the issue is, has something worked for him? Has he been successful at something that you haven't been? Then you can learn from him.
Amazing. So you're running through a lot of principles right now. So let me slow you down and then break it down for our listeners. First of all, he said you are a resource. So each and every one of us has a resource on the inside of us. In fact, you are an embodiment of a resource. And you brought up a very important parable. What I actually saw when I looked at that parable some time ago about the talents, I realized why the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer. People keep asking that question and they see it as a bad thing. They're saying, oh, the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer. The guy who lost one of the only talent he had, it was not thrown away. It was given to the most productive person. And he added to what he had, and then he kept multiplying. So when society gets angry at the most productive people and look at it like it's unfair, the only question I have is, what are you doing with what you have? And just like you've said, we are a resource. But most people, every single person is one, but most people don't take the time to dig deep into themselves, to discover what this resource is, like you've done, and then begin to create products from it. You're creating products on a mass level now. You're talking to publishers in America, and they're saying people are interested in that. Before then, you were just in your hospital, just enjoying yourself, but now you're beginning to reach the world. Currently, we're talking to people from different nations, at least 30 different nations in the world, and you're reaching people because you discovered a resource within you, and you decided to bring it forth. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can do exactly the same thing. The next principle he talked about is improving yourself. Constant self-improvement. You talked about Warren Buffett. Actually, when I read about him, what I read was that he studies about 500 pages worth of material every single day. So imagine Warren Buffett practically reads a book of 500 pages every day. And he said that is one of his routines. And no wonder he has such a mind that he's one of the greatest investors of all time. And people want to invest with him because he doesn't lose people's money. Even during the worst financial downturns in history, probably the recent one was in 2008, he's one of the guys who still came out ahead in spite of the crash that every other person had. So that is very important. We have to constantly improve ourselves. We have to constantly study. We have to constantly look for materials that will make us better. Instead of spending time, just giving out our time to just friends and activities that don't really add value to our lives, we need to look for things that will add value to us. And Doctor, I want to ask you something about this particular category. You talked about reading, and I believe that you also did some listening as well. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right. So it's not just reading books now, but listening and writing down as well and taking notes, right?
Oh yes, that is so important. I wasn't a big fan of writing notes, but now I keep, there's this app called OneNote, Microsoft OneNote, and it's free on your laptop. Just open it and start using it. It's like having a folder, but it's an electronic folder. And if I get new ideas, I put it there. If I learn something from a book, I put it there, and then read those things from time to time. And when you read them, you'll be inspired with new ideas, So yes, noting things down. And also audiobooks. Why are audiobooks important? Because if you drive to work, which I do, you drive 1 hour there, 1 hour there. That's 2 hours out of your life gone. There are only 24 hours a day, you know. And so if 2 hours are just gone, well, that's going to be 2 hours of audiobook. As simple as that. True. Or you listen to one of the messages, you know, DSA's messages or any other message that you might find helpful. But you make use of every minute. In Ephesians, we are told making use of the time because the time is evil. But we don't take these things seriously. We don't take them seriously. We must use every time that we have available to us.
Fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, get to writing. One of the things that I discovered as well in my own studies of successful people is how much they journal. They like to write things down. They like to put ideas down. And Doctor has reiterated that fact. So please write down your ideas, put down these things so that you can always go back to them and use them. Even the Bible tells us to write our visions and make them plain so that he will run that sees it. Sometimes we need to be reminded of the things that we're supposed to do, and those things help us. Some of us have to-do lists, some of us have visions, some of us have plans. You have to constantly go back or even put them. We have the concept of vision boards where you put up on the wall the things that you want to accomplish. All of this is part of you improving yourself and giving yourself on a daily basis the drive to keep going in spite of whatever you might see around you and in spite of your situation. Now, Dr. Benedict has a family, he has a full-time job, and he's got other responsibilities as well, but he's been able to find time to do all of these things and become such a productive person. Many people will tell you, oh, I don't have the time to write a book, I don't have the time to start an NGO, I don't have the time to even discover myself, but this is somebody who is doing it right in the midst of doing every other thing in life, and he's enjoying it and everything is smooth. So, Doctor, there are a lot of people who will say that they are so busy with life and, you know, they don't have the time for it. So to those people, what would you say?
Well, you can find time. It doesn't it doesn't matter how busy you are. You know, John Wesley and Charles Wesley, I think there were, I've forgotten how many siblings there were, whether they were 10 or 12. But the mother used to find time for each one of them. And because she knew she didn't have a lot of time, she made sure it was quality time. When she had that time with them, it was time that she shut herself away from every other thing so that she could invest in these children. And we know 2 of those went on to be world changers. So you can find a time, even if your life is as busy as, you know, John Wesley's mother. But you have to be wise about time management. The real problem with time management is that, you know, we are careless with time. We are far more careful with the way we spend money than with the way we spend our time. And yet you can make more money and can't make more time. True. There's only 24 hours. You can't buy an hour more even if you have $1 billion in your bank account. You're only going to get 24 hours each day. But you can make more money anytime. So you should be more frugal. That's my principle. Be more frugal with your time than you are with your money. You know, you can give money away, but don't give time away stupidly at all. Make sure that you plan your day and you find time for things that matter. And as I said earlier, it's all about planning the day wisely around your down times and your peak times. So make sure that at the peak times, that's when you do the quality activities, and then the down times, you do those activities that don't require a lot of concentration. You know, I discovered a truth some time back that if you do certain things back to back, you just wear yourself out. So I'll give you a typical example. I would go riding on my bike, you know, for about 2 hours, come back exhausted, then I would cook. I'd cook a heavy meal, then I would eat, then I would fall asleep. I didn't plan to sleep, but I'd fall asleep because I was tired from all the things that I had done. And then before I'd know it, the day was gone. Now, I don't just do that. I plan, I decide when would be the best time to do this activity. When would be the best time to do that activity? Can I postpone this one to tomorrow? Would it be better tomorrow than today? That's how I live. So if you do that, you will always find time for the things that matter. You will. You will be able to change your life. And also another principle is you have to do an appraisal. And it's on my Facebook page. If you want to know what an appraisal is, go to my Facebook page. There are a few articles that I've written on this subject. you have to do a self-assessment test where you sit down and you ask yourself some questions that you've been running away from. Ask yourself this simple question. Like Sandra, DSA talks about, who am I? Why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to answer that question recently, but I have broken it down. One of the things I said was, imagine yourself as a driver on you're going on a road trip somewhere. Your life is that road trip, and you're the driver and you're going. And now is the time for you to just pause and ask yourself, where actually have I arrived? Where am I? Where am I? And what has the journey done to me? How have I changed on the way? Because you'll discover that you've changed drastically. I did this analysis. I went back 30 years. I went back 20 years. I looked at the kind of person that I was then. I looked at the dreams I had back then. And I said, where have they gone?
So you didn't even realize them prior to this time that your dreams had vanished. You just thought you just kept living.
Yes, they're gone. Wow. And so I said, no, I had to revive some of these dreams and start to pursue them. But that's only going to happen if you find a time to sit down and do a self-assessment. A lot of people are scared of doing a self-assessment, that they will discover something that they don't want to know about. But honestly, this is not something to beat yourself about. I've made mistakes more than you can think about. Talk about mistakes, I've made it. But you know what? I shook myself off all of that. I just told myself, you know what? If I sit back and regret and cry over my past mistakes, I'm going to lose more time. Time is ticking. Forget about the past. Press ahead. And especially now that I have a curriculum in front of me, I have no time to waste. There are books. I have a library. People talk about their libraries and they show you books that they have read. Yes, I have books that I've read, but I have a library of books that I have to read.
There's a difference.
There's a difference. The books I've told myself I have to read. There's some books that I would never have read if I hadn't come to Ukraine. I read about Benjamin Franklin's biography. I was watching one of the HMTs, and DSA gave that as an assignment, and people were supposed to read that book overnight or something. And some people were really, really shaken by that experience.
Oh yeah. HMT will squeeze the laziness, the lack of focus out of you, because every day you have to read one book and then write assignments on it. If you don't, you get a red dot. And if you want to graduate, you have to not get 3 in those 3 days. You cannot sleep, you cannot talk, everything is regimented. So yeah, you're right. It was very, very tough for a lot of people.
So I saw this and I said, this Benjamin Franklin, why is DSA asking people to read about Benjamin Franklin? I'm going to go find out what it's all about. So I read the book and I was shocked. There's somebody that lived in the 18th century, that his life, that he had principles that, my goodness, that if people could take these principles into their lives today, they would become so productive.
True.
This man dropped out of school at the age of 13, but his education didn't stop at 13. Oh. He, in fact, taught himself so well that this man now was lecturing people. This man was now a source of knowledge and wisdom. Priests used to go to him for consultation. Priests. This man was so incredible, and I just thought, wow, this man was given life, this gift they called life, the same gift that I have.
The same 24 hours you have.
Exactly. This is what he did with his. What am I doing with mine? It's not an achievement for me to say, oh yes, I studied, became a doctor, I became a consultant, therefore. Yes, but a lot of people are doing that. Is that all I can squeeze out of my life? Is that all? No, I'm sure I can squeeze out more. Look, Benjamin Franklin, in his day, they didn't have a fire service. So he set up one. So he set up one. The fire service in America started with him.
True.
This man was Postmaster General. He was everything. He helped to draft the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, he's one of the founding fathers.
It's incredible.
He was a
Incredible.
scientist, a politician, a poet, an
Yes.
inventor.
Yes. Yes. All that
Incredible.
one person. And you know what? That's why I said that our educational system makes us lazy in life. Because it tells you, you know what, you got your degree, that's what you are. You are a BSc in economics or engineering or whatever. That's what you're supposed to do. Hey, there's more to your capabilities than that. That's just one of the things that you can do. You can do far more. But of course, you have to apply yourself in the same way that you applied yourself when you were in school.
Fantastic. Very well said. One of the principles that I had not gotten to before you gave us this new tidbit was you talked about Nick, which is don't focus on what you lack. A lot of people focus on what they lack and they look at the things around them and they're like, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have this, I don't have that. And that makes them depressed and that makes them to live a life of lack of gratitude. And before you know it, they say, oh, I'm a do nothing, I don't have the tools. And they have excuses all the way to the grave. But you have to be able to make use of what you have, no matter how small it is. So you've heard about Benjamin Franklin, how he maximized his life and how he was able to bring about change to the life of Dr. Benedict. And thank God that you read about Benjamin Franklin, because a lot of people wouldn't have done that assignment. And most people don't know who he is. A lot of people just hear the name and they don't understand that back then there are principles behind the lives of these great men who formed what the greatest nation that we've ever seen. And those principles all along have been there, but we've been failing, falling, rising, slavery, all of this nonsense has been going on. But there are men who were able to be virtuous even way back then. And I like his principle. I don't know if you came across his principle of personal development every day, where he develops virtues in himself. And in the evenings, he scores himself according to the fruits of the spirit, in quotes, you know, kindness, patience, and things like that. So he lived a very detailed life. Now, you talked about yourself as a professional. I advise each and every one of us that is listening to check out the life of Benjamin Franklin. Just read about him and you'll see life from a completely different perspective, and you'll quickly realize that people who have had the same 24 hours as you have had, they've been able to use it to do incredible things. Don't let school, don't let society, don't let people who are minimalists stop you from maximizing your potential, because trust me, scientists have even found that nobody has even used up to 10% of their brain capacity. So there is more that you can do with yourself. So doctor, I want to ask you, what exactly has the impact been of DSA on your profession? Because you're a psychiatrist, and up until this point, you were you were professional, you were going to work, you were rising in the ranks, and now you're a consultant. But has there been any change in your professional life due to what you've learned about DSA, due to meeting DSA and imbibing his values into your life?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I mean, one of the biggest challenges that I faced when I came to Ukraine was basically DSA showed us that we were living way below our potential. That's what he basically showed us. And I remember myself and someone else bringing this up. But you know what? I've got a career. I've managed to achieve this, and then and basically DSA was just showing us, is that it? So are you happy with that? Is that what you can do? Can't you do more than that? And I left that place scratching my head. What more can you do?
Wow.
What more can you do? But one of the things that he said that stuck in my head was, he said, anything that you're doing, if you're doing good, if you know it's effective, you must think of how you can help people on a wider scale. So let's say you're a doctor, you have a surgery, you get patients, they come in, they see you, you're helping, you're making a meaningful impact in society. Yes, we agree with all that. But ask yourself, can I expand my platform? Can I do more? Can I reach more people? Can I influence more people? What those ideas have done is they forced me to think about my profession differently. So rather than just going to work and doing my bit and coming home, I am constantly detecting problems, unmet needs. That's what I'll put it. So there are unmet needs that the healthcare system just hasn't addressed. There are needs that the healthcare system hasn't addressed. And I'm thinking about ways to address those needs. It's changed the way I look at, the way I look at life, the way I look at my profession as well.
Amazing. So now, just like Benjamin Franklin found the fire department when it was needed, you might just come up with an entirely new segment in the psychiatric world because you're now thinking a lot more, you're thinking in a deeper scale and you're thinking about people more than you did before. And you're now going beyond the scope of what the school taught you, right?
Exactly. Because I've discovered the truth of how to get the most out of your life. It's like you squeeze, like, the way we used to drink oranges back at home.
Yeah, you squeeze everything out of it.
Yes, you squeeze every drop out of that orange, Yes, that's what I've discovered. You must squeeze everything out of your life so that on the day when you lie on your deathbed, you can say, I have lived and lived well. Ralph Waldo Emerson, they said that. He said the purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful and to know that you've lived and lived well. And that's what I want to do. I want to develop my abilities, my capabilities, see how many people I can help, how many people I can influence, and then sit back for the greatest satisfaction I will have. I won't celebrate it with a party. It is to know that I have lived and lived well.
Very well said, Doctor. What you said back then at the beginning of the show is something that I discovered even before I met DSA. One day I was just thinking about it and I was like, because I had discovered my calling and I knew that God called me to pastor and to lead people. And I was like, people are going to be very unhappy in heaven because you would quickly, because the Bible says that we're going to have perfect knowledge. So imagine if you were supposed to be a Jeff Bezos or a Mother Teresa or a Benjamin Franklin and you just died a pleb. You get to heaven and you see what God had planned for you. You're going to have to live eternity with that regret, knowing that there are people in hell at the time that you're in heaven due to you accepting Christ and all that, who you would have saved. But due to the fact that you failed to discover yourself, you have to live all through eternity knowing that a lot of lives were not touched because of what you didn't do. So I just thought about it and I was preaching it back then. I didn't even know the depths of it, but I just felt it in me that there are people who will get it, because if you look at those, like the DSAs of the world now, I said, we're going to be in the same heaven with these guys. We're going to be in the same heaven with people who changed history. We're going to meet King David. We're going to meet Moses. We're going to meet, Daniel. And we're going to have to talk to these guys for eternity. And they're going to say, hey, you lived in an era where there were phones. You lived in an era where there was the internet. What did you do with all of that technology? Because when we were alive, there was basically nothing at all like that. In fact, Daniel will be saying, I was thrown in the lion's den. What was your own experience? And then people quickly realized that, oh, wow, the most persecution I got was somebody sending me a mean tweet or sending me a mean comment on Facebook when I shared DS's message. So we need to realize that, look, we're living in the most prosperous time humanity has ever known. We're living in a time where there's so much advancement, like you said, that people in villages all over the world have the same amount of access or can access the same knowledge that people in Silicon Valley, in the UK, in Tokyo, all over the world can access. So there's going to be no excuse. In fact, the Bible says it that in the last days, knowledge will increase. And that should make our productivity to increase as well, because Jesus wants us to occupy before he comes. That was what he said. He said, occupy till I come. And that is left for us now as people of God, as kingdom citizens, to maximize our potential and do as much as we can, with what he has given to us. So if we're going to get to heaven and we're going to live, and we're living in the most prosperous time in humanity, we need to have results better than those who we're reading about in the Bible, who were using horses and chariots. They didn't have cars, they didn't have electricity, they didn't have running water, they didn't even have books. Then if you wanted to hear the word of God, you needed to go to church so that they can read the scroll. And it had to be kept in a very focused way, and you couldn't touch it. You had to enter the holies of holies. But now we have the Holy Spirit, we've got the blood of Jesus, we have Bibles. In fact, these days, nobody carries hard copy anymore. Everything is digital. So we have no excuse whatsoever. So, Doctor, finally, what would you like to say to DSA on his birthday, on his 53rd birthday? What would you like to say to him?
Dear DSA, I'd like to say, first of all, I'd like to say happy birthday to you. I know it's only in a few days' time. Happy birthday to you. And I would like to say that your life is a life well lived. Some of us have to wait before we can say that. But even now, you can say that your life is a life well lived because there are people, there are living testimonies. There are people whose lives you've transformed. I like the story of Gideon because, for me, he's the ultimate hero because he was a nobody and he rose up and he met the challenge that the angel threw at him. But because he did that, other people in the country also rose up. And they, in fact, some of them came to him and said, "Why didn't you tell us all about what you were doing?" Because of what you've done, DSA, you have, lots of people have risen up all around the globe. Lots of those people you will never even get to meet. You wouldn't even know what impact you have had. But your life has transformed the lives of others. By you choosing to be obedient, others can look at you and follow in your footsteps, learn and benefit. I've been a beneficiary and I'm very grateful, to God that I had that opportunity to meet you. And I say, may the Lord bless you and may you continue. I know that there are challenges. I know there are people criticizing you all the time, people writing stories about you, etc. But don't look to the left. Don't look to the right. Just keep pushing. Because as Pastor Joshua said a few minutes ago, we're all going to find ourselves in heaven one day, and we'll be given account for what we've done, and we will discover our wasted potential. And those that thought that you had gone off the rail, they will actually see your fruit. They will see what you have done. The rest of us, some of us don't have to wait till that time. We can see the fruit already. And I'd just like to encourage you to just keep going, because there are some following you, and we need you to keep going, to give us the motivation to also keep pushing harder. Happy birthday.
Wow. Thank you very much, Doctor. I'm sure DSA would appreciate that greatly, and I'll be getting back to you on that. So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it straight from Dr. Benedict, and you can see that he embodies the message. He's not just telling you stuff that he read. He's telling you stuff that he has lived and stuff that he's living and is working out for him. And this is what DSA is about, helping to improve people. And as long as you're willing and you're able, you would always be able to get whatever it is that you want. And like Dr. Benedict said, on DSA's platform, you can see in fact, I think that's the very first playlist, Life is Predictable. Most people see that as something that is, that is impossible. But when you listen to that series, you quickly realize that your life is yours to do with as you please. That is a trust that God has given to you. And if you use it wisely, you would come out on top. You will come out victorious. You will come out living like a king and making an impact like Jesus did. But if you don't, you will have issues. So you can go on Sunday Adelaja's YouTube page. The name is Dr. Sunday Adelaja, Dr. Sunday Adelaja. And if you go on his YouTube page, you'll see all of those messages. Same thing for his Facebook page as well. If you want his books, please go on Amazon.com. You'll see them there. You can also get Dr. Benedict's book on Amazon. DSA's books, all of them are on bambooksrightnow.io. Those of you in Nigeria, Bambooks will help you to be able to get all of DSA's books once you subscribe to their service. And then you can also go to dsabooks.com, dsabooksplanet.com. If you're in Nigeria or West Africa, you'll be able to get the books delivered to you. If you order for any book there, the hard copy can be brought back to you. So we've come to the end of today's show. Thank you very much, Dr. Benedict, for coming. Do you have any final words before you leave?
I'll just say that, let's be doers and not just hearers only. We Africans were very good at this. We like to listen, we like to watch videos, but let's practice it. Put it to work, put it to use. Just as I came across these truths and I discovered, if I practice them, I would reap results. I encourage you to do the same thing. Just don't stop messing around. Stop messing around. Just take hold of these truths and run with them, and you'll be surprised. You will see transformation that you didn't think was possible. Bless you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. It was great having you here. We hope to have you back again very soon as you launch new products. God bless you. Bye for now. Say hello to your family and everyone over there in the UK. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Dr. Benedict all the way from the UK, telling us of his transformational story. And I'm sure you've been blessed. Those of you who are just joining us or who joined late, you can always go back to the beginning on Facebook or on DS's YouTube channel, and you'll be able to watch everything. Those of you who have not watched for the past 22 days, today is day 23. You can go back and you'll be able to see all of the videos of different testimonies, and I can assure you that your life would never remain the same. Like Dr. Benedict has admonished us, be a doer, take action today, start today. All of the procrastination has to stop. Many of us have said, oh, I'm going to read this book later, I'm going to get to this video later. Start today, start now. DSA has a few mentorship programs. The first one is about millionaires. If you want to become a millionaire, please write to mentorship@godembassy.org, and you'll be able to be welcomed into this millionaire mentorship group that would help you to become a millionaire. You'll be taught the principles, you'll be taught the values, you'll be taught the know-how, and DSA will hold your hand through the process of you becoming a millionaire. And I believe once you make your first million, they say that's the challenge, that once you make the first million, making the next one becomes a lot easier. So I look forward to seeing you at the mentorship and you becoming a millionaire in the near future, so that you can be empowered to empower your world and to bring about change financially and otherwise. Then those of you who don't know who you are, you're confused about life. You're asking yourself, who am I? Why am I here? That is also a mentorship program that DSA has for you. Please write to the same address, mentorship@godembassy.org, and you'll be able to be welcomed into this special mentorship group that will help you find out who you are. DSA has a book titled Who Am I, Why Am I Here? You can get that book as well on Amazon, on dsabooksplanet.com, on BAM Books, and you'll be able to know at the end of that book who you really are. It will take you through a lot of introspection. Those of you who are afraid of meeting yourselves, trust me, there's this saying that DSA has. It says, the 2 tons of pain or the 2 grams of pain that you face when trying to discover yourself is better than the 2 tons of regret that you will face at the end of your life if you fail to do the needful at this time. So whatever you're facing right now, trust me, the pain of meeting yourself, of having to confront your weaknesses, of having to confront, the things that are not so great about your life, trust me, it's 2 grams. And it's something that you can work on and turn to a testimony and help others to even get out of. Everybody has to overcome one thing or the other. Trust me, the pain that you're going to feel in transforming yourself is nothing compared to the 2 tons of pain you will feel at the end of your life if you fail to do what you need to do at this time. So take action today. Begin to take evaluation of your life. If you've been going to church for 20, 30 years, ask yourself, just stop, pause at this time of the quarantine. Thanks to the coronavirus, ask yourself, what have I gotten? What product have I been able to have? If you went to school for 20 years, you would have graduated and become a professor at this point. Can you call yourself a professor? What products do you have as a Christian? So it's time for you to become productive, and it's time for you to shift from religion to having a genuine relationship with God and a productive relationship with yourself as a human being. And you can get all of the knowledge that would help you to become a productive person on DS's platform and through his books. So we've come to the end of day 23. The challenge remains the same. What are you doing with the time and the life that you've got? DSA is celebrating, we are celebrating DSA's life because he has maximized the life that God gave to him. And we as well can draw inspiration from it and not just celebrate his life, but we should be able to celebrate ours too, because we can draw lessons from him, we can draw knowledge from him, and be able to maximize our potential as well. So we're going to be here same time tomorrow. Make sure that you join us. We'll have another interesting and inspirational guest for you, and I'm sure that you will not be disappointed. So we'll be seeing you tomorrow. God bless you and bye for now.